Narrator, in a voiceover slow and intense. What would you do if the very man who was sworn to uphold justice shattered it with the slap of a hand? And what if the person he struck was the one wearing the judge's robe? This isn't just a story about injustice. It's a story about what happens when power is misused, and what rises when kindness, dignity, and truth fight back, in front of the whole world. Stay with me, because what you're about to hear might just change the way you see courage forever. The gavel hadn't even struck yet. The sun filtered through the stained glass of the old Atlanta courthouse, its morning rays cutting slanted gold light across the mahogany floors. It was a busy Tuesday, one of those high-profile mornings where the press clustered like pigeons on the courthouse steps, microphones prepped and rumors already flying. But inside, the tension felt like thunder behind the silence. Judge Elijah Monroe, a tall black man in his early 50s with salt and pepper hair and a presence that radiated calm authority, sat behind the bench. He had been known throughout Georgia as the people's judge. Fair, kind, but never afraid to confront injustice. In his courtroom, everyone mattered. That morning, he was presiding over a police brutality case, a particularly disturbing one. A young Latino teen had been assaulted during a traffic stop, allegedly by Officer Daniel Craigman, a man with a long list of quiet complaints swept under the rug. Elijah had reviewed the file all night. The evidence was damning. But he didn't know that what was about to happen next would shake the entire country. Officer Craigman strutted in late. He wasn't in uniform, but he carried himself like he was still in charge of the room. A thick, veined man in his early 40s, with a jaw that looked carved from stone and eyes that were perpetually narrowed. As he took his place at the defendant's table, his glare met Judge Monroe's. He didn't blink. Elijah, unfazed, simply nodded. "Mr. Craigman, you are nearly 10 minutes late." Craigman scoffed. "Didn't know I needed to be on time for a circus." The courtroom gasped softly. Elijah's voice remained measured. "You're in a court of law. This is not a circus. And you will show respect, not to me, but to the rule of justice." Something in Craigman snapped. He stood up fast and sharp. "That's rich," he growled. "A black man lecturing me about justice. You don't even belong behind that bench." Gasps erupted again. The room froze. Then he lunged. In less than a heartbeat, Craigman had crossed the floor and, before security could react, delivered a backhand slap straight across Judge Monroe's face. Echoed, not just in the room, but through every phone, every journalist's camera, every trembling soul who watched it unfold. Judge Monroe staggered slightly, not from the blow, but from the sheer weight of what it meant. The silence was louder than a bomb. But then, Elijah did something no one expected. He straightened his robe, turned back to the courtroom, and looked straight into the eyes of the young Latino boy who had been assaulted months ago. Then, with a single tear sliding down his cheek, he said, "Let the record show that violence does not silence truth, and hate will never outlast justice." Officer Craigman was tackled and arrested on the spot. But this wasn't just about one slap anymore. The moment went viral within the hour. News networks, Twitter, Instagram. It was everywhere. And something strange happened. Thousands began flooding the court with letters. Support, outrage, solidarity. But the most touching, a hand-delivered envelope from a 12-year-old black girl named Malia from Chicago. Inside was a note written in pink gel pen. "Dear Judge Monroe, I saw what happened, cried. But then I saw how you stood tall. I want to be like you when I grow up. Thank you for showing us what strength really is." Attached was a drawing. The judge, with a crown made of justice. Judge Monroe broke down when he read it. He wasn't just a man in a robe anymore. He was a symbol. And that was heavier than he ever imagined. In a quiet voiceover, the story then takes us back to Elijah Monroe at 12. In Mississippi, watching his father, a janitor at the local courthouse, scrub the floor, only to be spat on by a white lawyer. "I'll clean these floors, son," his father had said. But you're gonna sit at the front one day. Make them call you Your Honor. Elijah had never forgotten. He studied, worked night shifts, became a civil rights lawyer, then a judge, always remembering the kindness of a librarian who tutored him after school, or the elderly woman down the street who gave him her husband's suit for his first college interview. Kindness, not anger, had carried him forward. While awaiting trial, Craigman's wife showed up at Elijah's chambers, tear-streaked, terrified. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "He wasn't always like this. Iraq changed him. They never got him help. Please don't let our kids grow up with this as their legacy." And for the first time, Elijah hesitated. Could justice include mercy? The trial for Craigman's assault took place weeks later, a national event now. But Elijah did something radical. He invited Malia, the girl who wrote him, to be his honorary assistant that day. She stood beside him, proudly holding his robe before he took the bench. And when it came time for sentencing, Elijah shocked everyone. "I sentence you to 5 years in prison," he said, looking Craigman in the eyes, "but also to 5 years of mandatory psychological rehabilitation, and 2,000 hours of community service, under the supervision of the very communities you once feared." People were confused. Until Elijah continued. "Justice is not about revenge. It is about restoration. And though you struck me, I choose not to strike back. I choose to rebuild what you tried to break." Tears rolled down faces across the room, including Craigman's, because for the first time, he felt the weight of what he had done. In the months that followed, something beautiful began to unfold. Craigman, under court order, worked side by side with the very people he once profiled. He taught boxing classes at a youth center, sat through grief sessions with mothers who lost sons to violence, was humbled again and again. And Judge Elijah, he launched a new initiative, From Gavel to Grace, pairing at-risk youth with mentors across the justice system. Malia became its first ambassador. On the 1-year anniversary of the slap, Elijah gave a speech to a packed auditorium. "I was hit, but I was never hurt. Because kindness, real kindness, is bulletproof." Narrator warm, emotional. What would you have done if you were slapped for simply standing in truth? Would you fight back with hate? Or with healing? If this story moved you, don't let it end here. Leave a comment below with a moment kindness changed your life. Subscribe. Share this story, because the world needs more voices like Judge Elijah's.